Daniel Bennett is a musician, performer, a prolific thinker, and an absolute doer. Everything he absorbs, he converts to the doing. Meet my friend of 15 years, musician Daniel Bennett. Daniel Bennett. The mind of Daniel Bennett in the vault of, well, the Story Vault. My Story Vault. It's amazing. Well, welcome to another museum.
Thank you for having me. We've been at many museums this year, my band. And as I was telling you, as we loaded in, we are literally in a vault. So if the interview doesn't go well, I think Dennis might lock me in the vault.
We're going to lock you in to make sure it does go well.
Oh, I like that. That's how you do it.
Yeah, man. We keep people in that,
yeah,
timeout, sort of necessary timeout from the world. Although the world's beautiful, and as is your mind. And isn't it your tour,
it's Mr. Bennett's Mind is the new album. That's a scary thing.
It's a scary thing. But the scary thing isn't the subtitle.
Right. No. Right.
It's just your commentary on your title.
That's my commentary.
Okay, great. Well, Daniel, we met a while ago.
Yeah.
You were playing in southern Rhode Island.
Yes.
And I was blown away for so many different reasons. Because probably you already know this because I've shared with you over the years how fascinated I am by becoming a fan of your music and inviting you to narrative identity retreats, leadership retreats, weekends. And this is your third visit to the Berkshires.
Third visit, and the Porches Inn across the street. My family, we are staying for the night, and thank you for having us. We love that place.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they converted an inn, or I guess it's like a Victorian row of houses into an inn.
Yeah, and that's your way into the Berkshires, right? For this experience,
that's the gateway. Yeah, but we did meet in Rhode Island, and I remember we played at a restaurant in a very small town.
That's right.
And back in those days, I was doing my publicity on my own. Thankfully, now I have a nice team that helps me with promotion for Daniel Bennett Group. But in this case, I sent a press release to the little town newspaper. And if I remember correctly, the show was on the front page of the newspaper, which was great.
Amazing.
And of course, the best outcome was that we met and connected at there. And I was living in Boston at that time. I had just finished at the New England Conservatory, and I was touring around New England mostly, and the rest is history.
Wow, yeah. And it's isn't that the way it goes, right? We hook arms with people over time and with digital technology and a desire to stay connected and in relation. You come back into the fold of the other. And, at the sort of during our pre-pod time, you mentioned like, hey, it's just like good jazz. And that's really what this life is about, right? Sometimes we invite people to be sort of the featured musician, right? They come up on the stage, everyone sort of fades out, give them a go. Don't even know what time it's going to be when it ends, but we just kind of know, and when the next one begins.
Yeah. I joke with people. I mean, I made a career out of fixing things, fixing problems. I mean, that's what creativity is, right? There has to be something broken in order to be creative and fix the problem. Literally. So it could be a musical situation where you have to make the music harmonious or not harmonious, or you have to fit with the room. Maybe the acoustics are different from room to room. We play every week at a club in New York called Tommy Jazz. It's a very, very loud jazz club. It's an underground jazz club. And so the acoustics,
pretty famous,
very famous club, and we've been there since the club opened. I mean, you go there any night, and there's lines down the block. It's on East 53rd Street in New York, but the acoustics are, as much as I love Tommy Jazz, the acoustics are not great, like most jazz clubs. So you have to make do. You play a different way. You project your instrument in a different way in order to be heard, in order to fit with the vibe of the group. And I always feel left out because my musicians have all these great pedals and their electronics, and I just have a saxophone or a flute or maybe a clarinet that I'm blowing into. We made our album about a month ago. We're recording our new album, and I was joking with my wife. I mean, really what I do is I go into a studio and I blow air into a horn for 5 hours. Everyone else is sitting down, sipping lattes and having a beer, and like they've got all their pedals and they're fine. I'm exhaling into a horn for 5 hours. whole different experience.
So this is a great bridge, right? To how did you know, right? Which, by the way, isn't the question ever. Let's just go back in time and do a trace, right? Because this guy blows into horns for 5 hours at a time for a living.
Yeah.
So if you're a musician, know a musician, or are enchanted by musicians, it's really remarkable to think about the continuum of work that's available and ways to be devotional to your instrument, your work, your craft, to evolve it. But to be a professional musician in the jazz world, to get paid, to earn an income, not to do it as sport or / recreation, you really have to have that devotion and fidelity. But it's not like you go to a special guidance counselor, right? Or a psychologist. This is, I'll untap your musicality.
Right.
We're going to get you dialed in here, kid.
Right. Well, the funny thing is I did take the guidance counselor test, which I'm sure you did when you were in high school, but I knew what I wanted the outcome to be. So I sort of guided my guidance counselor to the answer.
So you went to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, elemental, I think it was P, was jazz man.
Yeah, the weirdos are all
jazz
going to, letter P. And I was guiding her to the outcome that I already wanted.
Player. Jazz man.
Oh, even better, when I was in 4th grade, my band director wanted me to play trumpet really badly, but I didn't have the face for trumpet. And when we had to fill out
what does that mean for people who don't understand?
Well, brass instruments, I'm horrible on a brass instrument. You have to buzz with your lips. I won't do it into the microphone. I forget we're on a podcast here. Sorry.
That's the teacher in you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I want to demonstrate, but I'm not a brass player, so you don't want to hear me do this. But you're buzzing with the front of your lips, which actually I can't do, which is why I didn't want to play trumpet. So when we had to fill out our instrument form, top 3 instruments that you want to play.
Some kids, though, they don't necessarily have the self-awareness to understand that, like, somatically from you could, I guess, call it biomechanics, armature. It's like you can't, like, it's hard for me to do. Some people just say, it's cool that dude plays the trumpet. I want to be like that dude on the album cover or in the video.
Right.
But you knew the limitations of yourself.
Oh, I know all of my limitations. Yeah.
Okay.
That self-awareness is a good thing. So I said saxophone. Those are all my 3 choices. So from the very beginning, I knew that's what I wanted to do. But really, being a musician is about knowing my limitations. It really is. And I don't mean this in a self-deprecating way. Well, maybe I do. You got to find the pretty notes, as Charlie Parker would say. Look for the pretty notes, and that's it. As soon as you extend beyond that, you start falling on your face. You're going to progress every night. You're going to grow naturally. It's not that you shouldn't try new things, but know what you can do and know the pretty notes. That's it.
So I love the integration of Charlie Parker.
Yeah.
Know the pretty notes. Again, maybe a little bit of a hint at your educational theme, or that ethos, that vibe, that intention, the motivation to share what you know, what you figured out to other students.
Yes.
So today you're a touring. So if you were to answer the question, who are you right now? Well, like, what do you do for a living? Because I know you are an educator, right? But I also know that you're a touring musician with the Daniel Bennett Group.
Right.
Can you give our audience a bit of an understanding of what you do for a living? Not necessarily every nook and cranny, but just overarchingly what you do.
Yeah. I'm a touring artist who teaches what I do. That's it. That's me in a nutshell. I'm a touring artist who teaches what I already do.
Okay.
And that's key. You have to be doing it to show people how to do it. You really do. You really do. I appreciate my music education, my upbringing, but really I learned everything on the streets. And I've learned all the hard mistakes, touring the world with my group, writing my own music.
Man, I feel that the way you said that.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, so directional.
That was from my gut.
Yeah, I thought you just punched me in the abs, right? Like, dude, this is it.
Well, jazz musicians carry around a lot of pain. This is one thing. Well,
like comedians, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's coming out in weird ways. It's therapy for us. Yeah. Every time I blow into an instrument, it's therapy. My wife can tell you that, especially after the gig. Okay, you got to break down, what did I just do? What did I do wrong? It's getting back to that self-awareness thing. It's not a self-awareness of fear. Fear is the worst thing you can have as a musician. It's actually a personality trait that everyone has. Some people have it more than others, and I've had to learn to hone it and develop it. It actually has something to do with music in a way. It's just an ability to understand that you contributed well to the group and don't go further than that. Don't do less, don't do more. I made my contribution and the music is good. And that's actually a personality thing that we all have. I think that every human has the ability. I mean, I've seen all of your great speeches, and when you're giving a talk, you have to know, okay, I've made my point. The TED Talk is over, right? It's over. And
it's done. Punctuate it.
Punctuate it,
right? Like, I know that dude's done playing.
Right.
Yeah. So you grew up where? Let's go back. Take us on that mental flight. You grew up where?
Well, I grew up in a tiny little town called Honeoye Falls. It's hard to say. Honeoye Falls. Honeoye Falls.
It's like oi. Honey,
Exactly.
Okay,
that's how
got it. All right.
People say Hanoia, but it's Honeoye Falls. It's a suburb of Rochester, New York.
Okay.
Born and raised. Went to a tiny little, lived in a small town, went to a little high school with a very vibrant music program. I had a band director who really cared about every student. And we played every single day. I played marching band, jazz band, pep band, concert bands.
How did you know this music educator cared about every student?
Because he had a connection with every student. Okay. Now, whether this was intentional or if it was a natural gift, his name is Mark Borden. He's recently retired. He was in the school system for close to 40 years. Oh. He had a connection with every student, and at least you felt that he did. Every time you sat down with him in a room, you thought you knew he was really focused on you.
Okay.
And he fostered a love of music, and he would be the first one to admit he was not a very active performer. But maybe that's why he was such a great teacher for us, because he really cared on developing our gifts. So we competed in band competitions in Virginia Beach. We went to New York City a few times to play at the Essentially Ellington competition at Lincoln Center. Wow. Yeah, so like he was really
that's great advocacy. And Honeoye Falls Rochester is, it's not easy to leave there.
Right.
You're way in upstate New York, lake effect snow until almost June.
Yeah. You're in your own ecosystem. You get past Syracuse, Buffalo, Rochester, you are in the ecosystem. It's Western New York, and it's a whole different vibe. Buffalo Bills, the Rochester Red Wings, that was my minor league team growing up, because that's all we had.
That's what you had, yeah. Right on the river, the Genesee.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Did you go to school up there?
I did. I actually.
I thought you did.
Yeah. Interestingly, I went to as an early science geek of the hard sciences versus the cognitive science and psychology. Yeah. I was recruited by a bunch of schools because of my science fair project around holography and optics and lasers. I found something more complicated than physics, by the way. Yes. People trying to discern their life, work, integration.
Yes.
But I did go to Rochester, and I loved it because of the University of Rochester obviously has the Eastman School of Music.
Right.
Which created an opportunity for me to really appreciate jazz early on.
That's nice.
Even before that, actually, in West Virginia at the National Youth Science Camp program, we had a lot of science kids, by the way, who loved jazz. And that's actually where I started listening to jazz on cassette tapes that were brought in there was two delegates from each state in the United States, and all of their music interests converged at this camp, which was 3 weeks long, and we brought lecturers in from MIT, Carnegie Mellon, Caltech. It was great. So that was Rochester, and so I know Rochester a bit, and do you think that the school, Eastman School, and what was going on in Rochester had an impact on the sort of ecosystem of education?
I think there's high quality.
Not to give credit to Rochester, but right.
Although I didn't go to Eastman. I went to a very small Christian liberal arts school called Roberts Wesleyan College.
Oh yeah,
which was probably the first.
Cool school, by the way.
Yeah, and I think that's the first left turn that I took as far as like doing my own thing and forging my own path. My teacher had a heart attack not Mark Borden, but I had a private teacher who really wanted me to go to Eastman, and I felt led to go to a different school, and it's a good thing I did because I met my wife there.
Oh, wow.
So
that's where you met Gretchen.
God has His plans, and you go where you're led. Everyone has their unique path, and I think that's the point when I started really, really developing my own ideas and my own independent thinking. I've never fit the mold. It's funny because I play in jazz clubs almost every night.
Almost every night.
Yeah, and
I mean, just to give us like perspective.
Yeah,
jazz musicians don't play almost every night.
Yeah,
isn't that true? I'm not making that. I'm making that up.
No,
they'd like to, but you play almost every single night.
Right, but the funny thing is,
you just don't even pay attention.
No, and I don't see myself always as a jazz musician, which is funny.
Okay.
We did our album release at the Blue Note last year. We do our every album release at the Blue Note in New York. That's a great jazz club, but I really don't consider my music to be jazz. I actually don't define the music anymore. I'm at a point where I say, look, just interpret freely. People call it folk music, avant pop, fusion, jazz, modern jazz, but I don't know. As soon as I describe it to people, I think I have already forced them to sort of come in. I've put parameters around it, and I don't think that's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't really enjoy parameters being placed around you as a young person either, am I guessing?
No,
that, right?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. And I knew from a young age. I mean, I grew up, I write all of my songs from the guitar, oddly enough. I'm a saxophone player, but I'm a singer at heart. I sing and I strum chords. When I was in high school, I thought I would be a rock musician, like most kids. And to this day, I still see myself as a singer-songwriter when I compose music. I don't see myself always as a composer. I mean, I am a composer, but I'm a songwriter. And that's how I see myself when I lead my group. I'm a I guess you could say more of a front man. I'm not sure how you would describe it, but I'm a singer at heart. Yeah, it's a different path.
So Roberts Wesleyan.
Yep.
Is it's got a spirit, that place.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a Christian school.
That's right.
Christian college. And how did you learn about that school?
My older sister actually attended Roberts, and I had known some people who had gone there, and I knew they had a great music program, but obviously I was interested in spiritual growth, development. I was interested in learning the whole of music, not just one specific thing. I always tell this to my students, you can always go on for further degrees and get more specific, but I knew at the age of 18 that I wanted to have a very deep, holistic growth as a person, spiritually.
How did you know
that? It was fostered in me by my parents. Okay. I grew up playing in church 3 times a week. I knew that was my calling. I've known as a young kid. And I tell people, look, everyone's path is different, but I knew that I had a calling to go to Roberts Wesleyan. And I didn't, it's oddly enough, my wife was attending the same school, but we didn't meet for about 10 years. I happened to be on tour like much, much later.
Okay.
And she was in the audience, and our little small talk was that we had gone to the same college. We never met when we were at that college.
Okay. That's clear now. I got it.
Yeah. So you don't know, I guess you just don't know what's happening. This is why I'm always inspired by our talks about storytelling, because we don't realize that the story is happening while it's happening.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're telling, this is what you do. So you know this. We don't know that the story's happening. Most of us are just living. We get up, we have 3 square meals, and we go to work or we write music, and we don't know that it's actually the story is happening right now. Yeah. The movie is being played.
The movie is being played.
Yeah.
It's unfolding. You have autonomy in it. The others around you do. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, maybe. They might be anesthetized. They need to snap out of that sort of programming, or as Sue Mead said recently, we were just talking about Sue, is the patterned.
Yeah.
Like she felt like she didn't want to subscribe to being patterned. So as a 60-year-old, she won the Dakar race, adventure race, one of the top 5 adventures in the world of any adventure. She managed teams when she was 73, 72. She didn't want to be patterned. Right. And in our world, in your world, right, as a young person, you can kind of feel, right, the energy of someone trying to pattern you, maybe.
Yes.
Or maybe just suggesting that a pattern might serve you according to their perspective, right?
Yes.
And how did you, as a young person, meet anyone's counter advice, whether it was to go to Roberts Wesleyan or maybe anything, because we're very interested in, right, like how individuals use mental models, frames, or decision points that they sort of just know happened because of their volition, their steadfast belief that something else was going on for them.
Well, the raw truth is it broke me. It absolutely devastated me to have a few people not support my decision to go to this little Christian liberal arts school. I mean, I was completely immersed in music. I was ready to go.
Broke you.
It broke me.
It broke you down a little bit.
It hurt me badly. And I ended up, I went to Roberts, and it was a great experience.
So you can't jump off stage that quickly.
There's that gut punch again. You're not gonna let that go.
Man. No, man. Yeah. So when you say it broke you, like it hurt your feelings, it deeply cut you, like emotionally, you felt unsupported. Like, give us a little bit on that.
It made me feel less. I immediately felt
like connected to your esteem, your self-esteem.
Yes. And when you're a young kid, you're going to trust anything an adult tells you. I mean, this is why words really matter. Mm-hmm. I do clinics all over the world, and I'm like constantly working with young people, and I have to be very careful what I say to them because it really can cut like a knife. And I was hurt. I think it stuck in me for years. Maybe it's still inside of me a little bit, this feeling of like, oh, wow, I really did something that was off the grid and it bothered somebody. And
now, is it because you wanted them to accept your path or appreciate or respect you?
Yeah, I wanted them to
understand
and accept me.
Okay.
I wanted the validation.
Okay.
Like every young person. And truthfully, probably adults are just as bad. We hide it. But we all want validation. So, but it shaped me. It shaped everything I do. It shaped,
so we don't have to get deeply into the who did the cutting, but educators, just adults.
It was an educator. It was a music educator. And there were several along the way who would kind of, you're sensitive to these things as a young person, people kind of giving you that side eye, like, well, how did you end up at this school? Or how did you really?
Yeah.
But I knew from a very, very young age that I was following a very specific path and that I had to just be faithful to that calling.
So I'm going to just throw something into the mix here, if that's okay. So is it that, like, this can sound a little academic, but is it like almost like precedent to you doing work or studying, you had to be you? I guess that's not that academic. It's just straight.
The idea?
Like the idea that, I can go to this school and this school feels like home, like me, fully, holistically, as you pointed out, and that's most important so that as I exhibit performance of anything or aptitude or interest or absorption of any area of study, that I've got to feel like my environment, the power of place, the people around me, the vibe, the ethos, the values that support coming together. If that's in sync, if that's harmonic, if that's syntonic, then I'm cool. I can go. You might not have articulated it that way, but is that something that makes any sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it really has to be you. You have to be you. I mean, I know that's kind of a cliche, be you, okay. But really...
Yeah, look, it might be a cliche, but I don't think people know how to call out stop and self-scout. Is that behavior that I'm doing, exhibiting, or a possibility of a decision I'm making actually me?
Yeah, and you know what?
Right, what's the borderline, the fringe of that note?
Right, and I'll say this too, for your listeners, especially young people, I spoke up for myself at a very young age. So I essentially, talk about a vibe shift. I completely altered my journey at a very young age and got myself on I had a very clear path. Because I made those decisions early on, I didn't do what other people wanted me to do, and then I had to clean it up later. I kind of dealt with it at the age of 16, 17 years old. I really had to get on the right path, and I saved myself a lot of agony.
You did?
I think I did by choosing at a young age to, as you say, being true to yourself.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, there's this phrase that I tend to use, not like an old man over and over again, but close to it, where it's you own every decision up until the point you make it.
Yes.
And then the decision owns you.
Right. Wow.
right?
Yeah, and I think you can lock in some of these choices at a young age, and you will see a difference in the outcomes, rather than waiting a long time and then sort of quickly trying to pivot.
So part of the claiming of your identity early is that like learning a language, it might be hard at the beginning, but it's pretty much a little bit easier to be you over the chapters of your life when you claim early. So it sounds like you're saying claim early.
Claim it early.
Okay.
Get yourself on the right path early so you don't have to jump lanes 16 different times before the age of 40 or whatever.
Right, which happens frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Listen to thyself.
Yeah.
So you're Roberts.
Yep.
Life is good. You're enjoying both the sort of spiritual vibe and holistic orientation, education, liberal arts, studies.
Yep.
You're thinking, I'm going to go do what?
Well, oddly enough, so technically I was a music education major, even though, again, I knew I wanted to perform.
So teaching was also claimed early.
Teaching was claimed early, although
kind of claimed.
I didn't accept it early.
Okay.
Like every performer, you're not going to accept that very easily.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not something.
Why not? Why didn't you not accept it? Did you think it was?
Because everyone wants to be on stage. Everyone wants to perform.
Okay.
And now I realize that it's all the same. It's all coming from the same pot. Teaching, performing, it's all performance. It's all inspiration. It's all people. It's all, as you would say, it's all storytelling. They're not so different. Teaching is not quite as different as I thought it was. As a young kid, I always thought, wow, teaching is going to be me and with 100 band students, and I'm like losing my mind, and I'm teaching all day. But thankfully now, I love private teaching. I work with a lot of students at the New York Jazz Academy in Times Square and other schools. I lead jazz programs around the Northeast in Philadelphia, New York City. But a lot of it is one-on-one teaching, which I love. I don't enjoy big concert band kind of stuff. For me,
so it sounds like the way your number one educator, right?
Yeah.
In high school.
Yeah.
At Honeoye.
That's right.
Falls. That you you see the world similar to him.
Yeah, he really shaped me. Getting back to Mark Borden, high school band, Honeoye Falls. I got this band director who just really seems to know every single student, and he's inspiring and motivating us. And all of a sudden, it's okay to be a music teacher. It's okay to be in that space. Now, he's different. I don't think I could do it the way he did it, but he made it.
Yeah, your style is not seeing the similarity doesn't mean the style is completely the same, right? So you learn from that and the individuation of your teaching, right? So the pedagogical sort of approach is individualized, contextualized for that student based on what you're picking up. It's almost like we were speaking earlier about playing in different clubs, right? And different acoustics, and you started this conversation,
right,
sharing some of those challenges. But that creativity is alive in how you orchestrate or adjust, be flexible, shift to how to perform in that. And performance individually with a student seems like it's similar, that it's a call for creativity for you.
Yeah, and it's very individual. And performing, I've noticed too, people come to a concert because they want to make an individual connection, either with a performer or with just the music they're hearing. It's very, very individual. If someone enjoys a musical performance, it's because something happened to them personally. It could be something, maybe after the concert, they come up and say hello. I love meeting people at concerts. We love our listeners. But it could just be they connected with the music in a very personal way. It's very, very individual, personality driven. Music is, like everything in life. Everyone, as we mentioned, we're all in the movie, but everyone's watching the movie because they want to see how they fit into the movie. Like everyone, it really is about the other people.
Well, everybody wants to be somebody, right? Yeah. You would presume, right? We all want to be honored, acknowledged, have gifts, skills, autonomy, choice along the way. When it shows up, we take it, right?
Right.
Should I have no choice? No, I want a little bit more choice, right? Like choice is important. It's central to sort of that process of individuation, whether you believe in sort of like a Jungian approach to it or another model. With human beings, there's something uniquely about this human experience that focuses on our ability to make decisions that feel a certain way. But in we anesthetize ourselves from and remove analytical behavior from some of the self-analysis. Like when I work with pro athletes, they're good at self-scouting. They're good at looking at their behavior. Professional musicians, right? They're good at going back, and you were talking about what the military would call an after-action report, an AAR, right? To do a retrospective in engineering is to look back at a project. The look back allows you that window for openness, right? Yeah. Looking at context deeply. But if you're using a discerning, discriminatory eye, your analysis and inference allows you to tag and flag what just happened, right? Objective observer. Yeah. How important is it to be an objective observer in your own life, or has it been for you? Because you seem very objective, oddly so. Right? There's a spiritual, jivey, good vibes side, but then there's the ta-ta-ta, I'm like, whoa, dude, that guy is just tagging and flagging his own behavior and mapping forwardly in his own story path,
I learned from the greats. I've been to 2 of your conferences, Well, what can I say?
Well, you're performing.
I'm performing,
Yeah.
Music is about people. I just recently taught a masterclass at City University in Manhattan, and I got 50 students to compose a song in 10 minutes, and every student contributed 3 notes. And no music. Nothing was written down. Yeah, nothing was written down. I was posting some of this recently on TikTok. It's wild. But the way that I get students to remember the notes, each student contributes 3 random notes. The way that I get people to remember the song, because we have to play it with no music.
Oh my gosh.
You know how we do this? We look at the person and we remember the person who contributed the notes. Every single time, without fail, you'll remember the notes if you can associate it with the person, right? So if you're in the master class and you go, mi, re, do, that's Dennis. Mi, re, do. Okay, that's Dennis. It's locked in. Next person, going to be completely different. I'm going to associate it with them, and I look at them. It's wild, man. It's really about people.
What sparked that way of teaching for you? Because this is just, it's brilliant. Right?
I have to give most of the credit to all of the world-class improv comedians that I work with in New York City. Okay. I actually almost every week, I play improvised musicals where we make up a full Broadway musical on the spot. The audience helps us create a show, and then the singers and actors and then the musicians create a show on the spot. And the one thing I've learned from improv comedians is they will obsessively look at one another just to look in their eyes and get a cue. And then I start doing it. So if I'm playing along with an improv with a singer, I'm staring at his face because I just want to understand what's coming out of his lips. I want to see the movement of his lips. I want to see the frown, the smile. I need to know, is this in a minor key? Where are we going? It's really about people, looking at people.
Again, tag flag. What am I saying? Right? Objective observer.
I've been trained to do this. So this show's unique. Because
where did that come from, though? Like, did you do that early on, or was this sort of a New York state of mind thing you've been doing?
I mean, I like people. I think it has sort of come from since I was a little kid. I enjoy people. I grew up collecting baseball cards, so I would look at baseball cards. I want to see their face. My son Hudson, you met Hudson.
Of course.
He's a huge baseball fan because you can see.
I think we just gave him a great 3D printed dragon, by the way, that he liked. But
as long as I get to play with it. You did. So the face, it comes from the face. So working with Broadway, I do a lot of theater work when I'm not band leading. I do pit orchestra gigs. But the improv comedians are the best, really.
So I get the lesson and the answer, but I can't help but to say, you just never stop playing. You just don't stop playing.
No, and I even brought my saxophone to the vault in case, because I'm so used to having my horn with me. Yeah. My wife said, I don't think you're going to need your saxophone for the interview. I'm like, I'm going to bring it anyways.
It's beautiful.
It's just what I do.
It's what you do. Yeah. We'll have some notes at some point, I think. I think it would be the right thing to do, really.
No pressure.
To improvise.
But, even just seeing it in the studio, I'm good. It's comforting to see, okay, the instrument's here. It's part of me.
It feels like home.
Exactly. All is good.
Well, you've been playing these horns, and it's not the only instrument that you play, even though you were really, I won't say stubborn, but you were really focused, right? And dog with bone around saxophone.
Right.
But now, and since then, I've heard you play the clarinet.
Right.
I've heard you play and play and play. When did the exploration kick in for you to try to do other instruments? Was that early on? Was that at Roberts? Was it?
I would say around college, yeah. I was already picking up clarinet and flute. I mean, nowadays it's pretty much expected for saxophonists to double on multiple instruments you get more work. You can do theater gigs. A pit orchestra is only going to hire 10 or 12 musicians because they expect everyone to double on different instruments. And it's cheaper for them to do a production if the whole woodwind section can play multiple horns. So it kind of just was expected over the years, and it's become part of my group. I mean, the wild thing about my group is that the songs can change. It's pretty hard for me to promote my group well. I mean, I'm always active on social media, but it's a little frustrating because one song sounds like American folk music. I'm playing flute. Then the next song sounds like, some wild klezmer-ish clarinet, and they're so different. The songs is very, very hybrid.
Do you find that in assembling albums, you're like a good DJ going from like The Cure to In Excess to, you know what I mean, before you get to something that's a little bit like Red Hot Chili Peppers? Do you follow me?
Yeah, you got to have a nice blend. My set list is a blend. We're going from like the saxophone, which for me, I love Lee Konitz. I love Paul Desmond. I love the really cool West Coast kind of stuff. And that's the alto for me. That's the alto. But then all of a sudden it's flute. And now I have to now the song sounds a little bit folky. So you got to shapeshift. You really have to be a lot of different sounds.
And how important is it for you to bring those sounds to life as a human being? Let's go back to the sort of the centrality of holism in your life, in your worldview, your model, your mental model. You approach the world knowing about yourself, knowing what you need. Is that a need, or are you playing to what the voice of the customer, the gig, is saying you should do?
I honestly, at this point, I suppose it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
You got to play to the room. You know that it's only going to benefit me to have a mix of sounds and styles. And I think the audience can appreciate that. I don't think I'm consciously trying to change styles because it's not out of insecurity per se, but I do think that it helps the audience embrace the entire concert because it's just changing a lot. People's attention span is short, and you got to cater to that a little bit. I don't think
but that's also catering to you.
Yeah.
A bit too, right?
Yeah, that's me.
Right? It's like your ability to create off of what you feel.
Yeah.
It's still you and your creativity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a challenge because every song is very different. Even we're making our 11th studio album, and this one is
this is your 11th?
Number 11. And this is all saxophone. My producer wants me to make a record with just saxophone because she felt like it's confusing people to have all these flute songs. I mean, we've had albums where I'm playing oboe, where I'm playing clarinet, maybe it's good to kind of have a record that's just saxophone.
Just saxophone. We'll tune in, right?
That'll be out. That'll be out next year, hopefully.
Wow.
It's an unusual disc. It's actually mostly the music of other people, which is new for us, other composers. So Joni Mitchell, Sam Rivers, Horace Silver, John Lennon, like a whole mix of people.
Oh my gosh.
I did contribute one of my songs to the record, but the rest of it is other people's OPM, other people's music.
So you have grown. This is a great illustration, right? Emerging out of our conversation of how you're a collaborator. Right. And you do have a sense of identity, but we live in a social world. So whatever someone's work path might be, awareness of self in relationship to others critical, right? Because that psychosocial connection, your openness to do things differently, adaptability maybe, right? You're not just adapting to get the thing you want, but the thing that other people can bring to the thing that you want to share with them.
Right.
I think. When did you start feeling more at ease with collaboration, moving from a little bit away from the one-to-oneness or the here's my performance of the thing I care about and I know and I like, it's me, to, hey, I'm going to form a group because you've been in a band for a while.
Yeah.
Can you take us through a little bit of how you evolve that way of performing and gathering with others?
Yeah, well, The short answer to this is a little bit, it's going to sound a little sad in a way, but I think it's pretty liberating, is that it's not about me. And I've noticed the more I play music, the less and less it's about me. And it really is about finding other musicians and featuring them. And I don't, it sounds like I'm trying to say that in an altruistic way, but in a way it's literally how the world operates. The best concerts I've ever played are the concerts where everyone gets their say. And maybe I go home and I go, I think I played maybe a few good notes. And I getting back to Charlie Parker, I played a few of the pretty notes, but I didn't blow fire out of my instrument. I actually just let everyone play, and I played a little bit, and then we went home. And that's actually, the more I play, that seems to be the formula that's working for us.
How do you know that's true? Is it because tell us how that's true? How do you know?
I think it's true in all aspects of life.
But how do you know it's true after you blow the pretty notes and everyone else gets theirs? Like, what's the after action sort of thinking? Like, what evidence do you have? Is it like, do you look at the audience? Do you talk to your bandmates?
Yeah, I all of the above. The audience enjoys it. The band loves it. And I don't feel like I've strained. Again, if I'm trying to blow a fire out of my horn, I will come home and I will physically feel it. Okay. My gut, it feels like I've done 1,000 planks and my gut, it just hurts. And it's like, wow, I was really pushing too hard. A good concert it's like eating a good meal. It's well balanced. This may not sound exciting because the younger me is thinking, I want to have that pizza and I want to be blowing fire out of my horn. But those are not the concerts that really work for me. This is just me as a person. And I think over all aspects of life, it's like parenting and everything. It's like, it really is about other people. As much as it might drive all of us crazy, that seems to be a common thread in what I do. Yeah. And what we all do is like, it's really not about me.
Yeah, it's being in service to others.
Yeah.
Right? This, like, service is the answer.
Yeah, and again, it's not even intentional. Sometimes I'm forced to do this, and then I go, hey, that was good that I did this.
But it's the beginning of remapping behavior too, right? Like the incidental sort of whoa, like I had to do this differently. I didn't breathe fire.
Right.
And the outcome was really good. And I had more energy for my kids and my conversation, my coffee talk with my wife. And, we were able to, wait a second. I think I can give more to the world, all aspects of my world.
Yeah.
At Berkshire Innovation Center, there's this belief that, collective wisdom is always the answer, right? We can do more together. And you represent that. Certainly not why we asked you to be here today. There's a whole lot of other motivation behind that. Namely, right, that you're a good human being who has had to discern his own life path, has become this performer in a very unique way and still teaches, raising a family, right? Traveling from museum to museum, gig to gig, working in all kinds of unique, creative ways for life to be rich.
Yeah, every night is different. And it's a big challenge. I can romanticize it and say that it's great, but it's challenging to go from, we played at the Dallas Art Museum last week and beautiful concert hall. And then all of a sudden you're in a noisy jazz club in New York City, just blowing hard on your horn as we were talking about trying to adapt to the rooms and the people. It's challenging. It's everything you learned as a kid, in kindergarten, in Sunday school, or from your parents. It really, that's the truth that you got to hold on to, because really, the sandbox, right? Can you get along in the sandbox?
Yeah.
Are you throwing sand at the other kids, or can you get along with others? Yeah.
You have how many people in your band? Well,
the album that five of us are recording the new album, but on the road there's three of us.
There are three.
Yeah. I have a strange group. So Jeff Dingler on bass for this tour, and then, Coco Bermejo. Coco plays drums and keyboard at the same time. Talk about someone who's got two brains. Yeah. I mean, he's a whole scientific study unto itself.
Wow.
So that's the group. And then I'm playing a million horns because, again, there's only three of us. We have to fill up the sound. We have to really adapt and fill up the room. Trio music is hard to play. It's very exposed.
Well, that's what I was thinking, that the more, right, the distribution of work, right, the less, you're like three people playing 13 maybe, or whatever, right, when maybe 5 or 6.
Right.
In reality. And that's a little bit like mirroring modern work.
Yes.
You've got to do a couple of things. We're in a little bit more flux. We're sensitive to people's attention.
Yeah.
We want to see more talent, show up at work, right? And even though we tend to look at live performance as like recreational or bonus to our lives as human beings, it is your work.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to draw that out a little bit. Like, this is, I think, a good way to think of the evolution of work.
Yeah. Well, that's the challenge. I mean, you're doing something that's supposed to look recreational to the audience, but it's work. You woke up, I wake up at 4 a.m. to catch a flight to wherever. We were in Cleveland recently. We had a 2 p.m. concert. That means we're on a 6 a.m. flight. That's work. But then you got to get on stage and make it look like you're just kind of having fun. And,
yeah, right.
Jazz, you guys are just riffing. It looks so easy.
Yeah.
And people don't realize the thought that you got to put into it.
I'm one of my favorite exchanges, a little scat bit that Al Jarreau and Kurt Elling did, over Brubeck's Take 5, which doesn't sound anything like the innovative Take 5, right? Was it 5/4?
Yeah,
like
5/4.
Very unusual at the time. But today doesn't sound very unusual.
Right.
So the life changes, right? And the song is advanced in the 60s and 70s and maybe the 80s, but, in 2025 doesn't sound so advanced. But if you listen to Kurt Elling and Al Jarreau go back and forth, they're working off each other, as you said, looking into the eyes of the other.
Yeah.
Feeling like, well, you want to go that? You want to go down? Right. Is that what you want to do, man? Come on, right? And then, as you laughed, you adapt.
Yes.
Right? Laughter is a form of adaptability. It signals that you're adapting. Yes. You're letting go.
You're accepting.
Yeah, you're accepting. You're flexing. You're shifting. You're like, whatever you just thought, you let go of, and right?
Yeah,
and now
that's true.
And so I think it's a great illustration, a really meaningful illustration, jazz, that is.
Yeah.
And that when you do it through this look in the eyes of the other style that you're suggesting, that you use as a kind of a lens for all the work you do, that you can be more where you are to the other in service to the work you share.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, now I'm getting to work a little bit, right? How much you might see a connection to the evolution of the way you work collaboratively with the way we as a society, as a world, need to consider work together, collaboratively, synergistically, and how it all starts with that original teacher's lesson to you. Look in my eyes, be with me, be feeling what I'm good at, what I can be better at, help me along, that individuation, that one-to-one, that acknowledgement, the almost like implied, I know you're going to be somebody, I know you're somebody, I'm going to help you be somebody, but I'm going to not get in the way. I'm going to help you. I'll help you be part of the way.
Right.
I'll be part of your way. Right. So like there's the individual bit, but then there's the collective bit. How do you think about your work, your life? And especially now that you're choosing to shift again and say, I'm going to go with just the saxophone for an entire album.
Right.
I'm going to shift and allow the music not to be all written by me, the singer, songwriter, composer, frontman. I'm going to only let one of my spaces be me, my writing, my song. And I'm going to give people that sort of coherence, sax only thing.
Right.
But across some creative, interpretive bits, because, I'm a creator.
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm taking us?
Yeah.
Individual, group, shift, managing the tension, be myself, be in the group. Be in the group gets you far these days.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's a lot of this for me is getting back to the earlier point of it's not about me. And the other musicians have to feel comfortable. The audience has to feel comfortable. The music has to breathe. The styles have to shift. The instruments have to change. I have to be okay with this. Now, there are some performers who they're just going to blow fire out of a tenor saxophone for 2 hours. And I've had to accept over the years that that's not who I am as a performer or as a composer. So there's a lot of...
Or as a person.
Or as a person.
Or as a father.
Right. And I think it's tied into that, who you are as a person, your personality, your willingness to pull back a little bit at times. That's all going to play into your music. It's all going to play into your teaching. It's all going to play into your journey as a creative artist. There's a lot of things that go wrong on the road, and you have to be able to pull back a little bit and say, okay, we're going to fix this. Problem solving, as we mentioned, creativity is fixing a problem. There has to be a problem before you can be creative. So it has to be broken. Something has to be, when I teach clinics, sometimes I'll even have students for 2 minutes, I'll say, okay, everyone get your instrument out. We're all going to play a wrong note together. We're just going to play your best wrong note.
Right out of the gate.
Let's just get it out of the gate so you can just relax for the next hour. Wow. That's really important to show people that, to show that acceptance. There's a history in jazz education that it's a lot of browbeating and very dogmatic, and it's changing now. And, I feel that students obviously will play better if you can let them be comfortable in the situation. So when I play clinics at the New York Jazz Academy, the first thing I do, okay, let's make a mistake together, or let me just do something for the student that just shows that I'm human. Let me laugh at myself a little bit because I didn't play something right. Let me just do something, offhanded something, to get people to see that I'm just like them.
So I feel you taking us right now in this conversation to where you're headed.
Yeah.
From a virtuous standpoint.
Yeah.
Right? Like that the education is woven, educating yourself, but also educating others. And then jazz education as a whole is a really important part of your future path.
Yeah.
Am I off suspecting that?
No, like I was saying, to me, teaching and performing have become very much almost the same thing. I'm always playing with students. The best private lesson I can teach is a lesson where I don't say a whole lot at all. We're playing for a straight hour. Maybe I'll tell you a few things, but I'm playing, I'm collaborating. Because now I'm excited. Now I'm in it. Oh, I have some skin in the game too. I'm going to play too. Now I'm excited, and I can do that all day. If I'm actively involved in the teaching process, then I'm good. I mean, that instrument is with me all the time. So it doesn't matter where we are. And we'll do clinics for bands, concert bands. That's always different because these are like classical students, or we'll go to a college and it's like an orchestra or something, and I have to give some kind of insight. But it's no different. The first thing I like to do is I want to learn everyone's name. I'm pretty good remembering names, so I will remember everybody's name. And then I'll do the icebreaker game where we all write a song, or we do these little tricks in these games where I can get people to kind of open up and laugh a little bit. So the concept is the same. It doesn't really matter if it's a classical audience or where I am. The idea is it's all about people. I got to connect with people. And once I connect with people, then I want to be there. It's a big thing is I need to want to be there.
How has this way of thinking influenced your parenting? Because I see that you are, I've met the children over the course of a few visits to the Berkshires, and they've grown.
Yeah.
It's a little bit wild. When Shannon saw them coming up the ramp, she said, "Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They're tall.
They keep eating." Yep, that's right.
Stuff is happening.
Yeah.
And, I see, we catch sight of each other along the journey, and I see the joy in your face as you just play with the kids at rooftop venue, or just, you're out in the world.
Yeah.
How has the way you evolved your thinking about performing as an educator and integrating both informed you as a parent and maybe shaped shifts to your parenting?
The ability to clean up well is very important as a freelance performer. I play until midnight many nights. I was at Tommy Jazz this week, and we did the late show till about midnight.
And one of the best shows is the late show.
Yeah,
I think that's the show to go to.
It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, that's the show.
But it's funny. I'm up at 6 a.m. the next day because I'm getting the kids ready for school. And that might sound like it's easy. It's not. I have to physically and manually turn myself completely around and be there for them. And they don't care if I'm performing. The kids, they're not interested in dad the performer. They're interested in dad the dad, as they should be.
Right.
So just being that. But you have to really physically clean up well. I try to exercise a lot. Man, but there's mornings where I'm like I'm putting cream under my eyes, trying to like look, well,
to clean up well. Yeah, you got to clean up well.
It's all cleanup.
Yeah.
And it's embarrassing to even say this, but I don't care, because at this point, this happens. I mean, every TV taping we do a lot of like, we'll do these interviews in the mornings.
Yeah,
it's a 5 a.m. call time.
Oh gosh,
and I'm like, and I got these hot studio lights in my face, and I look like a zombie. So you got to literally clean up well. It's all the things that you learn when you're young. Just cleaning up well, shifting, pivoting. We
call this like cleaning up well is both a physical something, right? And keeping yourself fit, keeping yourself eating well.
Yeah.
Not ingesting the things you shouldn't ingest, whatever that means to anyone, right? Because that your body's that machine, that ultimate machine that allows that mind to get, take hold in the world, right? It carries us in some form. I'm thinking about how when I work with folks individually, myself, I think of I call it the cognitive corridor. Like we go from room to room these days. And we have these like human skills, whether we lead, whether we're empathetic, whether we're creative, exploratory, analytical, good at organizing, understand how to model things, that different audiences in our life are relationships instead of audiences. They show up on our doorstep, much like a morning after a jazz event, a late show. And it happens so quickly that if we don't create those cognitive corridors to realize where we have to turn down some of the way we do life, like if I'm exploring a lot and my wife is really good at like organizing and asking questions, but I'm exploring and creating, it can be unsettling to someone who's trying to create a map as I'm throwing more conjuring into the mix, right?
Right.
So I might slow play how I turn that up and signal to my partner like a good jazz musician. Eye to eye. I'm going to add a little bit of creativity here. Just want to make sure you're ready for it. Like just cueing verbally.
Yeah.
How important is it for you in your life that you create some sort of space in those in-between moments to reorient yourself to a relationship or an audience? Like, do you find yourself are you better at it automatically because you play like all the time in all these venues, do you think?
I don't know if I'm good at it, except
I mean, you sound really good at it, Daniel. I'm just saying, you sound really good at it, man.
Look, some of this is just, again, it's just not going to sound very exciting, but it's just that sense of responsibility that you have as a kid. Okay, you got to go to class. You got to get up. You got to study for the test. You have to go to class. You have to be at sports practice. You just have to do it. And it's drilled into our minds, into our brains, into our souls. Some of that is deeply wound inside of me.
So let's just say you had a lot of good reps early on, right? In the parental space, mom and dad, great role models. Right. And they amplified this awareness. But as a human being, you have choice. I mean, you could have gone to so many different schools undergrad, and then you went, you did your grad work over at in Boston, right?
That's right. I was at New England Conservatory.
Right, but you could have gone back to Eastman.
Could have, yep.
But you didn't.
Didn't.
You had choice. We have choice everywhere.
Yeah.
You still choose to be able to respond to the call, right? The kiddos in the morning, getting them ready. So so I'm kind of like not arguing with you.
No, it's good.
But I'm saying
you're drawing it out of me.
Yeah, like it's not like automatic. Like you could say, listen, I've worked, like the heck with it, hey Gretch, help me out here. I'm limping. But you have made the decision to bring yourself up as a parent, as a person, as a human in relationship to those lovely children. So
it's a little bit like, I'm looking at this beautiful studio that you guys have built out. In a way, you got to just build it, and then you almost have to kind of like go in and do it. You almost have to do it. In a way, like I've committed to everything, maybe too much, I guess, in my music. Not too much. I'm not saying that right. But I mean, in a way, once
it should feel like almost too much, right?
It's almost too much, so I can't go back. I mean, I wouldn't know what else to do, but be a dad and be a musician and do all of these things because I fully committed in my mind. If you don't fully commit to something, yes, I agree. You will drop the ball on a million different things because in the very back of your mind, you have not fully committed. But I'm just not like that. I think at a young age, I learned, no, you are committing. You are committing to this. You're committing to your marriage. You're committing to your family. You're committing to your career, your musicians. It's a 4 a.m. Wake up, hotel call. I'll be there. I'll be there at 3:59. I will be there. There's just something in you. But I do think some of that is because this is why when I book tours, I mean, I have people help me book tours, and often people will say to me, do you think we're booking too many shows? And I usually say, no, because I kind of need my butt kicked a little bit. I need this grid. I know that I need this, so let's just book it and I'll follow and I will grow into it because I'll have no other choice but to grow into it. Yeah. I feel like that's like the secret to life is like you have to get the bar really high and you have no choice but to just do it.
It's so good, man.
Just jump off the building, sorry to say it like that, and just you have no choice.
Yeah, fly.
Right. Look for the parachute. You will make it, but you have to, there is a point where you have to just kind of like jump off the cliff a little bit.
Yeah. Then just keep jumping.
Keep jumping. You have no other choice now.
And you become a great jumper.
I'm a good jumper.
You're a good jumper.
Yeah. I'm a little bruised, but I'm a good jumper.
You're a good jumper.
Because I commit to things. In my mind, the answer is, this is improv theater right there. The answer is always yes. Yeah. Yes, and. What can I do? Yes, and. I'm going to contribute to the conversation. I'm going to contribute to could be a clinic, a class, it could be a tour. Like, that's it. And there's not really an option of no at that point. So
Daniel Bennett's mind is absorbing from the comedian world, right? The world of stand-up comics, improv folks, actors, right? The world at large, from performances across venue types in different physical spaces with constraints.
Yeah.
And that's helping you
helps
jump more.
Yeah, because that's what my career, there is no music career that's set for anyone. I always tell this to students. There is no like grid that you're going to just jump into. It doesn't exist. Honestly, I don't even think there's a natural need for most music. I mean, you could probably get rid of 99% of all music and there would still be enough music for the average Joe to listen to at Starbucks. You have to choose to make that space. You have to choose to be valid and to push yourself into that space, go in the back door, front door, go through the attic. You have to choose to go into that space and create the space. And after a while, you'll go, oh, people are coming along with us because I'm act as if, right? They always say just act as if. Yeah. That's sort of the trick.
So you're seeing people come along with you.
Yeah. Every single night. And now it's to a point where I go, like, I'm not even planning all of that. I used to plan some of this, I'm going to get the audience and I'm going to do this. Now I'm seeing it naturally and it's different.
So what does that mean? You see them come along in the performance, in the night? Like the way they come with you for the ride.
They're coming with us for the ride. They're meeting us at the concerts. They're connecting with us online. They're streaming. I mean, the last album, Mr. Bennett's Mind, has done really well with streaming. And I'm like, I don't know these people at all.
Yeah.
This is clearly something that has now got its own legs. But getting back...
Its own identity.
It's got its own identity, but it comes from very small beginnings. It's me sending a press release to the Rhode Island, not knowing that Dennis Rebello's in the audience.
Yeah.
And now here we are 10 or 15 years later having this discussion.
All of it.
We don't know that the movie's happening while it's happening.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's the craziest thing.
So it's so
we
good.
Don't know.
It's so good too, right? Like this idea that the movie's happening. We have movie moments.
Right.
But the movie's still happening, even though the moment might be lifted from the scene.
Yes.
Right. And it keeps going. Like that's the rhythm of life.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's happening. Like the concert, like we didn't, tech folks don't click play, record, go.
Right.
We were going when we hugged each other at the threshold of Vic Works at Mass Mocha here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important because otherwise what we're putting out is just sort of a staged conversation. And obviously what we want to do and what I'm doing with my music is this authentic, trying to be. Being aware of my faults, being aware of what I can and cannot do, And that's actually increasing the number of listeners. The more I step back, the less I play, the less fire I put out of my horn. I think the group is more successful because of that.
So are you allowing the others to collectively shape and using your tag and flag sort of competencies and gifts to kind of know how and when to do that?
Yeah. I think I'm aware of when to do it. I don't always get it right, but I'm aware of when it's happening and how to guide the ship.
Man.
It's like working with students. I mean, students don't have the awareness, and you have to just kind of get them to see, okay, well, what's making you so tense when you play? You're playing too many notes. You're trying to play the high notes. Back off a little bit. Trust me, it's going to work. You have a great tone. Sell the tone. Paul Desmond, sell the tone.
Sell the tone.
Paul Desmond, I don't think ever reached much higher than a high F on his sax, which is still pretty high, but he was not blowing fire out of his instrument. It's the tone.
Yeah, the tone.
Yeah, it's the tone. And there's a lot of confidence in what he does because it's so clear and there's nothing extra that he's trying to put into it. There's no frills. It's nice. Yeah.
I'm thinking you've probably, as a good student, teacher, performer, listened to a few of our episodes. I heard a rumor that you have.
Yeah.
And you know that I ask questions as we kind of get to that space. I think we're there.
Yeah.
There are 3 questions I love to pose for guests. And I'll say all 3 of them. Then we'll go back and we'll hit 1, 1, 1. Or 1, 2, 3. I love the question, what were you raised for? Right? It really gets us into your mind, right? And into your past. What were you raised for? And then the second question will be, what do you want to be known for? Mm-hmm. Okay. And the third question is, what are you doing about it now, right now? So question 1, what were you raised for, Daniel Bennett?
You know, a wise man once told me this advice, and I still, to this day, I think about this. Worship God and serve the people. And that's how I was raised, period. Worship God and serve the people.
That's it, man.
Yeah. And the longer I'm alive, the less of me is in that equation. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, but it's so simple.
That's how you were raised.
That's how I was raised. My parents instilled that in me at a young age, and I have never looked back. That is the core of who I am. That is the core of who I am. And yeah.
That's about the most powerful, short, succinct,
simple,
but pure answer that you could give, right?
Yeah. I mean,
you could give. I'm not comparing to anyone else's gift, but that you could give, right? Think that's it.
Yeah, I didn't realize that music had so much to do with service either. I really didn't. I don't think most people really get that, how much you're really serving those around you. And you're trying to bring some light and some happiness and some joy to people for brief moments of time. You know, even if an album does great, I mean, people enjoy it for little bits of time. I don't know. I can't, you know, maybe you're making dinner and you're hearing my music for an hour. I don't know. Or you come see me perform somewhere. But it's these moments of joy. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
What do you want to be known for, Daniel Bennett?
I just want to be known as a man of God. I'm more than anything. And believe me, I have not hit that mark. I'm flawed like anybody else. But I really want to be someone that is just clear about my faith, authentic through and through. And getting back to the first question, just a servant. Just be a servant. I don't know if anyone really is going to remember a lot of anything about anyone, really, except for how they were treated by that person, right? Isn't that kind of the general sentiment among humans?
Yeah, that's right.
How were you treated by Daniel Bennett? I hope good. I'm not perfect. I can't guarantee, but I hope that's a common thread with me. Yeah.
What are you doing specifically about it now to be known this way?
Walking in faith every single day, waking up early, drinking a lot of coffee, reading.
It's a great model.
Drinking a lot
so far I'm in.
Coffee. Coco drinks triple espressos on the road. Triple, all 3.
He plays 2 instruments at the same time.
That's true.
Go Coco. You know, I mean, it's great.
He's got a big heart. He can handle it. I'm walking it out in faith, and I'm failing a lot. I'm learning to fail hard because you have to. If you're really going to get to the next step, you have to fail, and you got to be okay to laugh about it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's enduring. I think people are like can connect with us more if we're real on stage. So I'm walking it out in faith. I mean, I go to Philadelphia every Tuesday to lead a jazz program at Cairn University, and that's an act of faith. I've done that for about 5 years.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, every single Tuesday I go there. I get on the train and I go to Pennsylvania. I live on the Upper East Side of New York City, in Manhattan, and I get on the train at Penn Station and I go to Pennsylvania, and I'm going in faith. And as to our earlier thing, in a way, it's you've got to just sort of step off that ledge, and then you have no choice but to fly and crash a little bit, but you're okay. And then you jump off the ledge, and tomorrow's a new day.
There's always a tree to land on, a limb.
There's always a limb to land on.
There's a limb to land on.
And this is what I tell students too. Nobody's going to remember anything. They're not going to remember your mistakes. It's not going to happen. People are way too obsessed and absorbed with themselves. I get it. I tell this to students, and I still don't think they hear it when I tell them this. The audience, people do not remember. They don't care enough. Trust me, they don't care. It's one of the greatest things about being a musician. People simultaneously, they care a lot and they don't care. And it's a great position for me to be in.
It's like the opposites, right? The pairings.
And they're happening simultaneously. It's like when I post something online, the whole world is seeing it, but no one's seeing it. And it doesn't really matter because tomorrow's a new day and who cares? It's all going to get recycled again and, rinse and repeat. These things that we worry about as artists are so silly. I say this, I'm preaching to myself because it's not easy. We're humans. We have our feelings and we have our egos. But the longer I live, the less I'm worried about those silly things. Yeah.
Man, what a conversation today.
Well, you are the conversation starter. I mean, I'm going to tell you, you have a gift for that. I realized this about you early on, probably in Rhode Island at that concert when I met you. I knew, I'm like, I had this feeling in my mind that we were going to meet again.
Man.
I remember you told me about U of R, and we had a little small talk, and somehow I knew. And sure enough, here we are. I've lived in 2 cities, and I'm now, that was probably 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think you're close to 15 on this one. I think we're close to 15 on this one.
But you're shaping minds, literally. I mean, because I'm listening to your interviews, and I know what you do with professional athletes, innovators, inventors. They're all coming into the vault.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad they are, and, it really is important as human beings that we take stock of these moments that have risen out of our film capture, right, of the movie so far, so that we can take stock of the, next season of life and work,
right?
That we're responsible for with others, and that when we get clearer on that mental model, that evolving, sort of like the ecology of your mind, Daniel, right? Like it's like this thing usually evolved. You can feel more clarity about the decisions that you make, and even like how you do things is character, right? And it's like people sometimes just say, "Oh, that person's character," but think about it as like the how somebody does it, right? Like, dogs have characters, right? Characteristics. You don't look at a dog. When I teach on psychological archetypes, I'm like, you don't look at a dog and say like, "Oh, that's a dog." You say, "That's a Doberman. It's protective. It's loyal. It's athletic."
Right.
That's a Schnauzer. It might bite the cuff of my jean.
Right.
It's a ratter. It will protect, but mostly make a lot of noise. Like we put those character, and they're lovely dogs, of course, too. I love all animals, but I'm an Australian Shepherd guy. I love their athleticism, their smarts. I like the way they work in a pack collaboratively. When you look at dogs, you see the traits. You don't say, "Hey, that's just a dog." And I think what you have helped us and me, reminded me of today, is that when we listen to a musician, right, there's much to do with the characteristics of that musician that we don't know about.
Yeah.
And that if we open ourselves up a little bit more, we'll have more care and be in service to their path, their story path, and what they're trying to do, what they're doing right now. And you're all about the doing, my man. You're all about the doing. You're not about just collecting information. You convert. You're here to perform in life.
Yeah.
You're here to perform in life.
Yeah.
There's no mistaking that.
Well, thank you for giving me the chance to do it in the vault of all places. We're in the bomb shelter, literally. This is a great space to be in.
Yeah, well, we're glad you're here. And, wouldn't it be cool if you just grabbed the sax?
Yeah.
Want to just grab it?
Yeah, we're gonna. It might take me a minute. Maybe we'll edit it in. Or?
Yeah, maybe do a private concert out there.
Okay.
Okay. Hey,
okay.
Listen, man, this was brilliant.
Yeah.
I appreciate you deeply.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing the family and yourself up here and your story, man. Come on.
Much love. I'm honored to be here, and I hope to do more. And I got your book on the bookshelf at home.
Oh, man. That's great, man.
Good.
It's, and your story changes. It's a philosophy for living.
Yeah.
Right? The framework in the book is really about just providing space for people to participate in their own lives, just like you're doing it, man.
Love it.
All right, my man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dennis.
You bet.
All right.
Every story matters. I'm convinced. And what matters to you matters to us and to the guests you just heard from. So please drop your insights, realizations, and takeaways in the comment section below. Give us a like, and also maybe even share with a friend or colleague or family member who could benefit from listening to this story. That's it for now. Dr. Dennis Rebello signing off from my Story Vault.